welcome to Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes. I'm Lawrence Pugliese, and it's nice to be back. We did this program years ago, took a little bit of a break, pandemic and such, but we're back now. We have a lot of great guests to share with you over the next several months. Today's guest, the first one with our comeback, so to speak, is Mr. Steven Raby. He is a social worker, a volunteer, and a good all-around guy. I think you'll see as we converse with him today. So, Steven, thank you for coming in and spending some time with us on Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
It's been a while.
It has.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier how you and I were on this program together years ago for the Thanksgiving show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
We were in front of the library.
The children's library.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
It was great. We were talking about Thanksgiving, turkeys, and friends and family and
what
stuff.
we're thankful for.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, all these years later, I don't know, maybe that was 10 years ago or something?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's quite a while.
Quite a while. You look great.
And you too. We didn't age that
No,
much,
we didn't age.
Right?
Right.
That's a good thing.
Now, some folks might be wondering why I asked Steven to be the first guest back. It's because this man has a lot of experience with important things in the community and as an individual. So, I know we're going to have a fascinating dialogue. And I want to start by asking you to share maybe a little bit of your background with the viewers.
Okay, all right. Well, I was born in Somerville, New Jersey. In 1955, so I'm like 67 today, so I've retired, and then moved to a place called Stelton, New Jersey, and then to Plainfield, New Jersey. That's where my family, and I, I felt like I originated from Plainfield because I lived there, I grew up there. I had so many friends and, people that I knew right there, my Stelton and Somerville was just like infant, type thing.
Yeah, you went to like middle school, high school,
right.
all that.
I did all of that growing up in Plainfield, New Jersey.
Was it a good place to grow up?
Plainfield was very nice back there in the day. It was really nice, and I remember a lot of it, but it was getting to a point where it wasn't good for me. So...
Is that when you were like out of high school?
Yeah. Well, just beginning to get out of high school, I'm saying like in 11th and 12th grade or something like that.
So we're talking in what decade are we talking now? We're talking...
in the 70s.
In the early 70s.
Yeah, 73 is when I graduated. Matter of fact, we got our 50th year class reunion coming up this September. Yeah. So... there was a lot going on back then. I was introduced to drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, and really starting to work, starting to get jobs and stuff like that. And, drugs and alcohol would get in between the jobs and occupation and not knowing where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And
what kind of work? What kind of work was it?
I was doing like factory jobs and stuff like that. I could get the jobs, but holding them was...
Because you were partying.
Yes. I could get the job, real fast, but just keeping them was just really a problem, so... and once that started happening and my mind started straying away, from responsibilities, my mother did the best that she could. She was a beautiful, beautiful lady. And she did everything that she could. She used to always tell me, she said, Steven, you're not stupid. You just don't use your brains.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was right,
I've heard that too.
Yeah, she was right. She was totally right.
What was her name?
Her name was Rose.
Rosetta
Raby. Rosetta Raby.
Nice
Rosetta Lewis Raby.
So her maiden name was Lewis.
Lewis, yeah. So, my mother did the best that she could. We lived down by a bar, and, things happened down there and stuff like that. And, You know, I still continued to go to school, and I graduated from Plainfield High School in 1973. And, you know, I said I was introduced to that alcohol and not much drugs.
Beer mainly, or was it like a harder?
Beer and liquor.
Beer and liquor?
Yeah.
I'm just looking to see what time it is so we keep track.
Yeah.
Beer and liquor.
Yeah.
And then that led to drugs.
Yeah, marijuana. We all talk about the gateway drugs and stuff like that, but it really started with smoking cigarettes.
Cigarettes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cigarettes. Smoking that cigarettes, thinking you're grown and you're older, and you know you think you're about as old as your parents are.
Right.
And
it's cool.
Yeah, yeah. That's an image.
Yeah.
It was just, you know, an image. And next thing you know, you're doing something else and you're not even paying it attention, but you done graduated into something else, which like marijuana and, you know, and still alcohol and beer, you know, and then the personality that comes with that, you know, the attitude and stuff like that, because now, you know, can't nobody really tell you what to do or
You're
how
young,
to do it.
First of all, you're
Yeah.
arrogant when you're young.
Oh, God.
You think you know everything. And on
Yeah.
top of it, now you're drinking, and like anybody of that age,
right.
and smoking dope, and you just figure, you know, I just want to feel good.
Right.
I don't want anybody to tell me any different, right?
And you're looking at adults do it.
Yeah, that's
so
too.
you're thinking you're an adult too.
Right.
All right, even though you graduated. I was 17 when I graduated high school. And my birthday is the 4th of July.
Oh, wow.
So
That's cool.
I was 17, high school, it was June when you graduate, and I had like a month, or even less than a month, you know, to turn 18. And so what happened back in those days, in 73, 74, the age limit went backwards.
What do you mean?
Instead of having to be 21 years old to go in a bar, you had to be 18.
Oh, so as soon
The
as
age went back.
Yeah.
In
yeah.
1973, 74, yeah, the age limit went backwards.
So it was 21.
It was 21.
And in Jersey, this is.
Yeah.
And they brought it back to 18.
18.
Wow, more customers, I feel. I guess they
Yeah,
figured.
or more, because it didn't matter to us. We were new,
Yeah.
you know, in the bar age, so we could go into bars then.
So when you're coming up and you're young and you see the influences you said around you, a lot of the adults were partying and you wanted to feel like a grown-up, so you party. Is there anything else that fuels it too? Like, is there a sense of there's no other option, or things for me don't seem clear or promising, so I'm going to party to stop thinking about the fact that I don't know what to do with my life? Was it a failure of society's offerings to a certain extent that also kind of draws folks into partying all the time?
You know, I could say that the resources were limited. I could say that. And I could say that maybe I was in a box where I didn't go look for the right kind of resources. Like even in school, high school and stuff, we had programs in there, you know, so I may have strayed away from those programs and the people that I probably really needed to be around, you know.
What kind of programs you mean, like positive sort of?
Yeah, yes, there was different kinds of after-school programs.
Right, or even sports.
Right. And I was in like, where they fix cars and stuff like that, wood shops and stuff like that, things that would get you prepared for the future. And I was just wanted to get a job and get out.
Right.
I just wanted, so I didn't look for the resources. I have friends that I speak to today that, maybe on Facebook or something like that, who graduated and went to college back there in those days. But I didn't see that in my life at the time. I didn't know it even exists.
Have you figured out why that is at this point?
At this point, why it didn't happen?
Yeah.
Alcohol.
Yeah.
Alcohol took me a different direction, So, with that scene or whatever it is, you know, that thought. I went that way while other people were going forward.
And did you stay in what was the name of the town again?
Plainfield.
Plainfield. Did you stay in Plainfield
Yes,
for,
I did.
for a while
I
then?
stayed in Plainfield for a while. You know, we do a geographic change every once in a while once someone introduced us to that, you know, and we still feel that everywhere you go, there you are. And my grandmother was getting old, and she asked me to come to Virginia and help her out. And so I went.
And what was your grandmother's name?
Her name was Callie Estelle Lewis. Callie Estelle Lewis.
So you went to what city?
I went to Virginia, Spotsylvania County, up in Virginia to help my grandmother. So I said it was just to escape.
What was this, late 70s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Late 70s, yeah. Or early 80s or something like that.
You wanted to escape from,
I
from
did
Plainfield.
wanted to get away from Plainfield.
Because you were bored or because you knew things weren't...
Because I was getting in trouble. I was getting in trouble. That's the mindset. You know, I was driving drunk and stuff like that. And so when my grandmother said she may need some help, she said she may need some help. I was on a train or I was on my uncle and my aunt was moving down there anyway, and I just got on in a car and just went on down there and helped and stayed down there with her for a while.
You think your mother might have been involved in that situation, like saying, please, get Steven out of here?
Oh, she sent me out of Plainfield every summer. So I was either in Stelton with my oldest sister and my brother-in-law, or she would like volunteer me. I remember going to Newport News with my Aunt Catherine one
That's
time.
Virginia as well.
Yeah,
right?
that's Virginia too. My mother was sending me away because she knew I needed to get out of there.
Well, how was it when you got to Virginia then with your grandma? Did things change for the better, for the worse?
Nah. You would think out there in the country that you wouldn't have access to as much, you know, alcohol and, well, I wouldn't say drugs. I never had access to drugs out in Virginia.
Alcohol.
But alcohol, yeah. So it really didn't, you know, and like I said again, everywhere you go, there you are, the same behavior, same attitude and stuff like that. And once you take that drink, all bets are off. And so that's what happened to me. You know, when I got down there, I was still the same person. You know, I didn't know anything about changing. I didn't know anything about recovery or, you know, anything like that. I was just the same person, so.
And how long did you stay there?
I stayed there about a year, maybe a little more than a year, because I had to come back. My brother was sick. My brother, his name was Coley McCrae Raby Jr. He was sick. And
named after your dad, I suppose?
Yeah, he was named after my father. And he had cancer or something he had. And my sister called my aunt and said, get him on that train, get him back to New Jersey because my brother was dying. And I got back there in time to talk to him for a few minutes before he passed. So I just made it.
And he was young, I suppose.
Yeah, I think my brother may have been in his 40s. Yeah.
And then you stayed back home?
I stayed back in Jersey. I stayed there.
And then the cycles continued.
Oh, yeah. It got worse. You know, you can't never tell a story about drugs and alcohol and say it got better. It always get worse, you know, and then it got worse, and then it got worse. Yeah.
So you went from just alcohol to
drugs.
Other drugs.
Other drugs, yeah. Crack cocaine. What is that?
Yeah, back in the 80s, that was when that stuff was all over.
Oh, yeah. And crack. I think crack was the one that just really did me in completely.
How terrible was that?
It's something you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy.
Because you know you're
deteriorating, and that's mind, body, and spirit.
You know it.
You know it. You
just can't stop.
No, you can't stop. You chasing that first hit, so they say. You chasing that first hit. You're never gonna get it. You're never gonna catch up to it. You know?
Yeah.
You're just never gonna catch up with it. So you're still chasing it. And I did that for years and years, you know, till, you know, it just took everything I had. Self-respect, self-esteem, coping mechanisms, everything. It just took everything from me.
And were you living at home still?
I was living at home at first, and then I moved over with a friend who had an apartment. They didn't even live in the town. They lived in another town and sublet the apartment to me.
That's a break.
No, it wasn't. No, that turned into a crack house.
Ah, not in a good environment. Not a good, no.
That didn't turn out well.
No.
No. It sound like it would have been inviting, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
my own apartment and stuff like that. Nah, that turned into a crack house. And, you know, in order to escape that, I left that apartment with what I had on my back, the clothes I had on my back. I had to get out of there.
And where'd you go?
Well, I told my brother-in-law, his name was George Thomas Cathcart, I love the guy with all my heart, that I needed to get some help.
You realized it.
Yeah, you realize that, you know. And I told him I needed to get some help, and he took me to, I think it was Elizabeth, New Jersey. There was a hospital, a general hospital in Elizabeth, where I went into a detox. It was hard to get in there at first, because what I did, there was a hospital there called Muhlenberg Hospital. And I smoked a crack pipe all the way up to the front door.
Wow. You're getting every little bit in before you...
And I walked in and I said, I think I got a problem. And the little lady looked at me, she said, you think? Eyes about this big. And I went on in the back, and this lady back there told me, said, well, you know, in order to get into detox, you're going to have to drink. That was strange to me, you know.
You weren't drunk so they wouldn't take you? Is that what it was?
I wasn't drunk enough, I guess.
Oh.
And I think it's, you know, alcohol. You know, you got to have some alcohol in you or something. So
you left and
went and got drunk.
and then came back?
Yeah. No, I didn't go back there. I went to Elizabeth. My brother-in-law took me there.
Okay.
So, yeah, I went and got drunk and got another ride to Elizabeth and sat there for a while, and they wouldn't take me, and I went back that following morning back to the hospital, and she said I had to do it again. So I went out.
What a weird approach.
Yeah, I had a very weird approach to getting sober.
Yeah.
And so I went back out again. I seen my niece. She said, I just got a pint of Bacardi's rum. I said, that'll work.
Yeah.
So by the time I got back there the second time, I was ready, though. So
They
they
saw
took
it.
me right in,
They took-
yeah, yeah. And I went into a program called, I forget the name of this program. It was at Muhlenberg Hospital, because I went into a halfway house, the STEPS program. And I went in there, and it was at the Dudley House in in Plainfield, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
So I went in there for, I think it was for like 28 days or something like that. And while I went to Muhlenberg Hospital for treatment and stuff, outpatient treatment. And at the end of that, they gave me an opportunity to go to a rehab. They said the Salvation Army in Scranton. And I'm thinking, you know, I seen pictures and stuff like that of this. I think it was the Salvation Army in New York. It was like the Bowery. You remember the Bowery?
Yeah, yeah.
That's where people, you know, trench coats, bags with guys drinking wine and stuff like that. So that was the picture in my head. That's where I was going. But in my mind, you know, I didn't want to be around my family anymore. So
Because?
it wasn't, I'm thinking I'm hating these people. And really I was hating myself.
You were blaming them in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until I got here to Scranton, and one guy asked me, he said, well, what part did you play in it?
And this is somebody at the Salvation Army?
Yeah, woke me up big time.
And this is what year, would you say?
This was February 10th, 1997.
Wow, you remember exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I guess
To the date. It was snowing like mad up here. I'm like, where am I at? Because I'm looking out the windows of the Salvation Army, and nothing was moving. Nothing was moving. Yeah.
That's the beauty of a good snowfall, right?
Yeah.
It quiets it all down.
Well, I seen it when we was on the bus coming up here anyway. It was bad, you know.
So 1997, you're there. How long were you at the Salvation Army here in Scranton?
I stayed there till like September.
So from February
Yeah.
through September.
To September. I think 6 or 7 months I stayed in the Salvation Army. And, you know, when I first got to the Salvation Army, you know, and you go in the door and you don't know nobody, you're in a strange town, you don't know what's going to happen to you, you know, what's going to become of
Right.
me.
It's got to be a bit scary.
It was very scary because you don't have family there to argue with no more.
Right.
You know, so, and when you come into the Salvation Army, for me, when I came through the door, I brought the streets right through the door with me because they were up here.
Right.
All the streets were up here in my head.
When you say the streets, you mean?
All the chaos, all the unmanageability, all the thinking of being out there in the streets and, you know, how the streets groom you in a way that, you know, you don't care about nobody or nothing or, you know, what you say or what you do or nothing like that. It was just totally chaos in my head.
Because of the addiction, right?
Oh, yeah.
You just have a very narrow focus.
And having been out there so long, you know, the way you think, you know, it doesn't help at all.
So you had to basically reprogram yourself.
Exactly. And the Salvation Army helped me reprogram because it gave me the time to sit back and look at what was going on in my life. And there was like, you know, here I was 40 years old or something like that at that time, and I didn't have nothing to show for nothing. You know, I had absolutely nothing. So, you know, you kind of, when you get a chance to finally sit back and look at that, you know, you get a little depressed and you're not as happy. You know, you done spent so much time out there in the streets, and I'll say you spend a lot of time out there hating. You're hating. You blame God, you blame this, you blame that, you try to blame everybody but the one at hand, you. You don't blame yourself, and you don't realize that every time you pick up a drink or a drug, you know, and you wake up in handcuffs, or you end up in handcuffs.
When you say wake up, and you mean literally or figuratively?
Figuratively, but literally, you know, every time you are in handcuffs, you know, alcohol and drugs have something to do with it.
Right. So literally too, yes, it leads to that oftentimes.
It does.
So you got out of the Salvation Army in September of 97.
97 or 98. No, 97.
97.
97. Getting old.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
And then,
you know what?
Now you're in Scranton. Did you have to stay in Scranton, or you said, no, I think I'm going to stay here? Or?
I stayed here because it was very good recovery here in Scranton.
A lot of support systems.
Right. And the Salvation Army had a lot of opportunities too, because back in those days there, I worked at the thrift store. It was next door or connected to the rehab.
Yeah.
And so I worked in there, and what they say is about getting involved and networking. So I networked with a lot of people in recovery. And, you know, so somebody knew where this was, that was, or who knew somebody who knew.
You're developing a community for yourself.
Right.
Or you're finding the community.
And being a part of a fellowship, you know, and a support group, you know, and being part of a home group. These things I started doing, you know, for myself, you know, and getting out there and getting to know people, getting involved.
And how hard was it? I'm sure opportunities arose, temptations arose to have a drink or to you know, imbibe with some other sort of drug. How hard was that at first?
I did not have that problem too much. I don't know, I think I had just had enough. So, we would say the obsession to use, and so I didn't have that much obsession to use or pick up a drink or a drug. When I picked up the AA book, Alcoholics Anonymous book, and I started reading it, the book was telling me all about myself.
You totally related to it.
Yeah, it became, the book became so much about how my life revolved, And, there was still the guys there in the Salvation Army. There was like 60, 63 guys, in there. And I remember one of the counselors saying that maybe 3 of you may make it.
Wow.
Out of 60-something guys.
And the other ones would just fall back into the same old.
Right, and a lot of them did.
That's a hard thing.
It is. And, I just celebrated 26 years in recovery, and I'm still trying to be one of those 3 that make it. Every day. Every day. I have to mention his name. His name was Ed W. He said, we were all in the chapel. He said, maybe 3 of you may make it.
And had he gone through recovery as well?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. He was good at what he did.
And then, excuse me for checking. It says we have a time limit. I could talk to you all day.
I know.
I love talking with you. So I met you at Lackawanna College.
Right.
Right. How much time? You were a student.
Yeah.
You got to a point where you said, I'm going to educate myself so that through my education in the classroom and through my education in the real world, I can help. I can make a difference.
Well, I think God decided that for me. My higher power and the God of my own understanding decided that for me. Because I did drywall. I was a drywall expert,
Up here.
Finisher.
In
Yeah.
Scranton.
I worked for Simplex at one time. And I went into the union. I was told I would never get in the union.
That's nice. Nice union job.
So I got in the union up here. I fell off a scaffolding and I hurt my back so bad that I got a letter saying I would need to be retrained. So I went to the unemployment office. I thought it was some kind of state program they was going to put me in. And they said, no, you're going to college. And they put me through OVR, Occupational Vocational Rehabilitation. So that's how I ended up in Lackawanna College.
Yeah.
And then I did so well at Lackawanna College that OVR said, well, we'll help pay far as a bachelor's degree and pick a college. And I picked the University of Scranton, and I went there. And I graduated from the University of Scranton with a bachelor's degree in counseling and human services. Then I went to Marywood, and Marywood was interesting. It was
For the master's program?
Yeah, in the master's program. It was interesting. But I passed. I graduated with a master's, but I changed to social work, and that's what opened up all the doors. It opened up all the doors for me. So.
What a story, man. Seriously, what a story.
Yeah, well.
My respect, my compliments.
Well, I'm glad I stuck with it.
Yeah.
Because, we destroy ourselves,
Yeah.
We destroy our own opportunities.
Yeah.
And we don't realize that.
All the time.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. I see young people in my community, in my line of work, who they don't get it yet. Mm-hmm. And you hope they do. Mm-hmm. And you hope they don't fall down the wrong path.
Right.
But you can share your opinion or share some insight that you have to offer, but in the end, as you said, it's really up to the person.
It is. It is.
But the community's got to be strong. Some communities are worse than others, wouldn't you say? I
would say that to a certain extent. But the communities that I've seen around here, because I'm in the courts, I help out, volunteer with treatment court and Judge Barace and, some very good people there. You know, and I work with another program with parole office, Strive program, and I have a guy shadowing me there. I have guys that I sponsor in recovery, and they're doing very good, and it's just to see this here happen, you know, peer to peer. You know, and most of these guys are coming out of prison, and they're in reentry programs. You know, and so to find the resources for these guys, I'm still out there looking for resources, and I'm finding them.
What kind of resources are you talking?
Like housing. Housing is big because, you know, Scranton is changing, you know, as far as housing is concerned.
It's getting more expensive?
Very expensive.
Yeah.
Where a lot of, you know, I don't know if the jobs are meeting the purpose of having an apartment. You know,
it's a good question.
You
know,
know,
the locals can't afford it. You know.
Yeah, and that's really sad because some of the people that have been living here for a lot of years and used to paying a certain amount of rent are losing places now because they can't afford what these landlords are asking for today.
Right.
You know,
right.
And it's very sad. I'm not going to say kind of. It is very sad.
It is. I mean. A home is the most basic thing that we all need. You know?
It is. It is. It is.
So you're still fighting a good fight on a personal level and in your community with your fellow citizens.
Oh, yeah.
And that keeps you going. 67.
Yeah, 67 years old. It's so much work to do.
Yeah.
It's so much work, you know, and you don't want to see nobody hurting, you know. You do what you can. You know, with what resources you have. You know, I had this dream about the Salvation Army and getting them connected with treatment court. And voila, bridged the gap between Salvation Army and treatment court. And you know, Judge Barres, it's just a great
And how does that work? So people from the Salvation Army in that program, treatment court, how do they connect?
Well, the guys or whoever, mostly guys because we don't have a women facility here, mostly guys that are coming out of prison, you know, and maybe need to have somewhere, you know, for have an addiction or something like that, can finish out their sentence in the Salvation Army. So they bridge the gap where these guys can go into the Salvation Army, finish up their time.
The court system aligns.
Yes.
I get it.
Oh,
That's perfect. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Better than them being incarcerated.
Right.
Because.
And they can get that addiction, that personal care, and get that help that they need, be around other people that's just like them instead of them thinking that they're bad people. They're not bad people. They're not bad people.
They
just need help. They need a different way of thinking, you know, cognitive behavior therapy. They just need a better way of thinking, just like I did when I came here. Each door that opened for me, I seen people that were there who would help me, you know? And it was impressive to me to the point where maybe there is something to this. And that's why I stayed. Because I still say that today. Maybe there is something to this. You know, and I try to help other people. I tell them, don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle happens. Because you never know what's going to happen. I live miracles all the time. I'm living one right now, right here.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm so inspired talking with you. Steven, I knew before, and this just makes me feel even more confident that there was no better guest to have to restart Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes than you, sir. Because the stories and the wisdom and the recipe for life that you just shared, beautiful. These are treasures. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll have you on again.
I hope so.
Definitely.
I hope so.
Take care and keep doing what you're doing because you're making our community better.
It made me better, so I have to give it back. Thank you.
Thank you. See you. See you again soon. Thanks, Steven.
Thank you.